I didn't scream when I saw the balloons. I didn't drop my keys or rush back to the car. I just stood there, frozen on the sidewalk, staring at the front door of the house I had bought with 47 years of sacrifice, watching strangers laugh inside it, as if it already belonged to them. In that moment, I understood something terrifying. Sometimes the people who feel most entitled to your dreams are the ones who watched you give everything up to raise them. And that was the moment my silence finally ended. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Ella, and I am 68 years old, and the day I finally bought my dream home, I didn't tell a soul, not even my own son. I signed the papers with hands that trembled from more than age. They shook with disbelief, with gratitude, with a quiet triumph that felt almost too tender to share. I had learned by then that some joys grow better in silence. I never imagined that silence would be broken by balloons tied to my front gate and laughter spilling out of my living room. I had spent 47 years doing what was expected of me. I married young, raised a child, kept a home clean enough to impress neighbors who never stayed long enough to see the cracks. I worked as a school librarian, soft shoes, softer voice, shelving books while my dreams waited patiently inside me like pressed flowers. When my husband died 12 years ago, people said I should move in with my son, Mark. It's sensible, they said. You'll be lonely. Lonely, perhaps, but I wasn't finished being myself. I lived in a rented apartment with thin walls and a view of another building's laundry line. I saved carefully. I skipped vacations, mended old coats, brewed tea instead of buying coffee. Every month I put a little aside, whispering to myself, this is for the house, this is for you. I never told Mark because every time I mentioned plans, he laughed gently, the way one laughs at a child who says they will fly to the moon. Mom, houses are expensive, he'd say. You should just relax, let us worry about things. Us meant him and his wife, Sandra. Sandra was not unkind. She was efficient, brisk, and very sure of herself. She liked schedules and labels and open-plan kitchens. She liked things to be useful. She once told me, smiling, that sentimental people make bad financial decisions. I smiled back and folded the receipt from my savings account deeper into my purse. The house I bought was not grand. It was small, with a slanted roof and a garden that had been neglected long enough to grow wild with stubborn roses. The floors creaked. The windows caught the light just right in the late afternoon. When I first walked through it, empty and echoing, I placed my hand on the wall and felt something settle inside me. This was mine. I planned to surprise Mark eventually, invite him over for tea, let him see that his mother was still capable of beginnings. But first I wanted to paint the bedroom pale yellow. I wanted to plant herbs. I wanted to sit alone in the quiet and listen to the house breathe. On the afternoon I returned with the last box from my apartment. The sun was warm, the kind of warmth that makes you believe in mercy. I turned onto my street and slowed. There were cars parked everywhere. Bright ribbons fluttered from my gate. A banner stretched across my porch read, CONGITULATIONS, in bold letters. I stopped the car and stared. Music drifted through my open windows, loud, cheerful, unmistakably celebratory. For a moment I wondered if I had the wrong address, but there was my crooked mailbox, my roses. My heart began to beat in my ears. I got out of the car slowly, each step heavier than the last. Laughter burst from inside the house. I recognized Mark's laugh instantly, easy, confident. Children ran past the window, their shoes thudding on my floors. My floors. I pushed open the door. The smell of roasted meat and sweet pastries filled the air. My living room, still bare of my furniture, was crowded with people I barely knew. Streamers hung from the ceiling fan. A long table stood where I had imagined placing my reading chair. Sandra saw me first. "Oh," she exclaimed, surprise flickering across her face before being smoothed into a smile. "Ella, you're back early." "Early?" Mark turned, a drink in his hand. "Mom," he said brightly, "you're here, great timing." I looked at him, at the room, at the strangers who had made themselves comfortable in my dream. "What," I asked quietly, "is happening in my house?" There was a pause, an awkward one. Sandra stepped forward. "Well," she said, as if explaining something obvious, "we thought it would be nice to celebrate. Mark told everyone you bought the house for the family." The word family landed hard. "For the family," I repeated. Mark frowned slightly. Mom, don't make it weird. I told them you finally bought a place big enough for all of us to gather. It's practically an investment. The kids love it. My throat tightened. You told them, I said without asking me. He shrugged. You didn't say not to. The room buzzed back to life around us, but I felt very far away. I looked at the kitchen counter, where someone had placed a hot pan directly on the surface I had just polished. I looked at the wall where a child had already taped a drawing. Something inside me, something old and tired, wanted to apologize. To say, of course, make yourselves comfortable. That voice had guided me for decades. But another voice, quiet, steady, rose to meet it. This house, I said, my voice shaking but clear, is mine. Sandra's smile tightened. Ella, no one's questioning that. We're just saying what's yours is ours. That's how families work. I felt heat behind my eyes. Is it? I asked. Mark sighed the way he used to when he was a teenager and thought I was being unreasonable. Mom, you're 68. What are you going to do with a whole house alone? The question strung more than the noise, more than the invasion. It reduced my life to a waiting room. I'm going to live in it, I said. I'm going to wake up every morning and choose what to do with my time. I'm going to sit in silence if I want to, and I'm going to decide who comes through that door. The room went quiet again. Sandra crossed her arms. So you're asking everyone to leave? I looked around at the half-eaten food, the decorations, the strangers who had never once asked me what I wanted. Yes, I said softly, I am. Mark stared at me stunned. You can't be serious. I am, I replied. This celebration was not for me. It was for something you assumed you could take. People began to gather their things, murmuring. Some avoided my eyes, others looked annoyed. Within minutes the house emptied, leaving behind paper plates and silence. Mark lingered by the door. You didn't have to embarrass us, he said quietly. I met his gaze. I didn't embarrass you, I introduced myself. He left without another word. That night I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and cried, not loud, not long, but deeply. I mourned the son I thought I had raised, the years I had spent shrinking to be easier to love. In the days that followed, I cleaned, I painted, I planted. The house slowly began to look like me. Mark didn't call for a week, then 2. When he finally did, his voice was subdued. Mom, he said, I didn't realize, I guess I never thought about you wanting something just for yourself. I know, I said gently, that's why I had to show you. There was a pause. Can we come over sometime, he asked, properly if you invite us. I smiled, alone in my yellow bedroom, sunlight on the floor. Yes, I said, when I'm ready. Morals. It is never too late to claim your space, your voice and your dignity. Love does not require self-erasure, and family does not mean surrendering your dreams. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop asking for permission to live your own life.